more minutes, guys. We'll start right on time, hopefully. Absolutely. Feel free to get some. I've got a whole bunch of them over there too. Okay, as we're waiting to get started here, is everyone signed in?
No, where's the
Sign-in sheets right over here. If everyone go ahead and get signed in. This is our sign-in sheet right here. And there's a copy of the minutes and such, and or if you're interested in volunteering, please do so.
It's a long line, you think we're giving out free stuff, huh?
Will I stand here long enough to start getting stuff out?
You get a free pen when you get up there.
Mr.
and name
Tinko, we
tag.
have coffee, we have real cream.
Hi, welcome.
Ladies, all right.
You guys will go ahead, if you guys will go ahead and get signed in, it'll be great.
Jamie, would you sign in, please? Yeah, thank you.
Where my sister.
Is everybody else signed in? Good, it's 7:02, I'm gonna call the meeting to order. Lisa, did you, properly post the meeting schedule?
Notice has been posted in the 2 locations as well as the website.
Good, we have all board members in attendance except for Vice President Zaremba, so we have a quorum. So the meeting is called to order. The first item on the agenda is Don Zaremba is moving and has submitted his resignation in writing to the board. Do we have to accept that, Lisa?
Yes.
Okay. I make a motion that we accept Don Zaremba's resignation
Second.
Good. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. That's 4-0. I make a motion that we appoint Jim Timko, who has been a sharp resource to us and been on the finance committee and a lot of other talents to fill the opening in the board. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I'd like to make a motion on that. I move that the NSLH HOA Board of Directors postpone the appointment of a director to a vacancy until the membership is given an opportunity to provide candidates to fill the position.
Well, normally the board would, they just did an extensive election that got drawn out. And normally the board protocol would be to appoint someone.
Well, you don't have to though.
Well, we have four, and there's a lot of work to be done.
The reason why I bring that up, if you want to discuss it, okay, I'm making a motion here. If you'd like to discuss it, the reason why I'm bringing that up is because I don't know who this individual is, number one, okay? I think that if we have a vacancy on the board and we just had an annual election, it looks in some ways, okay, like maybe something is going on that shouldn't necessarily be going on. I'm not saying that there is. But I think that moving it, quickly is not a good idea. I'm new on the board here. I'd like to make it look like we are doing things properly and that the membership has some input into what we're doing.
So what we are doing properly, Mark, and that's well within,
Well, there are.
the normal protocol.
There are more than one ways to fill a vacancy. Not just by all of a sudden, the flip of the wrist, 1, 2, 3, you're gonna fill the vacancy. We could look at other members that are qualified, that may wanna also serve.
How if I introduce myself?
Sure. Go ahead, Jim.
I think first thing we need to know, Jim, is if you're even willing to accept the nomination.
Yes, I'm willing to
Okay.
accept the nomination.
Because if you're not willing to accept it, the whole point's moot.
Hi, my name's Jim Timko. I'm a lawyer here in town. I work over for the law firm Schutz and Bell, and I moved into this neighborhood 6 years ago. My wife's been on building this grounds. I've been on the budget committee. I'm currently president of a group called the Turnaround Management Association here in Florida. It's an international group, and what we do is it's turnaround bankruptcy, other types of professionals. My job is to basically turn around companies. That's what I do. I was asked to come in and help with this board. I care about the neighborhood. I have some interest in the gates. I have some interest in making sure that people's properties retain their value. My wife's been very involved in buildings and grounds. I haven't run in the past. I considered it, but I didn't. I was involved in the budget committee. Sarah knows me somewhat well. I don't want to overspeak. I'm just here to help out. So I understand your concerns, but I mean, I'm here basically to help the community. I don't know if I'll ever run again. I just want to make sure that the community runs smoothly. And that's really all this is about.
Okay, noted, and glad that you made a presentation. I know who you are.
Fair enough.
And I think other people as well.
I understand that this position just fulfills Don's term, which expires next year.
Yes,
So this
so
is
1 year term.
less than a 1 year term.
Yeah, okay. It doesn't make up the amount of time that the previous, Don, what's his name, Don Zaremba?
That's the remainder of this term.
The remainder is,
But
It's been asked in the past,
Sorry,
why
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, Mr. Dick recognized me, sir. In the past, it's been said, well, why don't we just bring in the third candidate who would just run?
Well, he resigned, first off, and it's
Mr.
within.
Pena resigned?
Mr. Pena did not win the election.
No, but he was a candidate who was running, so why is he not brought in?
Mr. Pena, offered to be seated.
I think he should be brought in.
Well, where is he? He's not here tonight, he's traveling for the next 2 months,
Mhm.
and we have a lot of work to do. So,
I made a motion,
Do we have a second to Mark's-
If you want, or.
is there a second to Mark's motion?
It's all up to you, I just want to state my position, that's all.
So, thank you. No second to Mark's motion, so we go back to the original motion to appoint Jim Timko to fill a vacancy created by Don Zaremba's resignation. All in favor? Aye.
I move that.
Thank you. Good, come on up, Jim and Lisa. We'll have a board package for you. Congratulations, Jim. Good. Tonight we're going to conduct this meeting by Robert's Rules of Order. The board, at its discretion, may recognize a speaker from the floor. Cumulative statements during the course of the evening are limited to 3 minutes. Again, that's extended at the pure discretion of the board. Please should keep your comments to the topic. The other point I'd like to do is I'd like to offer my condolences. Former board member Gene Smith recently passed away. We thank Gene for his years of service to the community and condolences to his family. I'm sorry.
It's only been 2 months.
This is the first meeting that was passed.
No, it's not.
First official was. Good. Super. The first item is the previous board minutes. Lisa, have you handed those out?
Yes, I have.
Okay.
They're in here. It was a short, and sweet meeting.
Good.
Got a moment to review them?
Make a motion to approve the meeting minutes as written.
You don't have the vote since you weren't here. Send this in before I. Could I second that motion? Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
John, or Mark, are you abstaining? Are you abstaining?
Mark abstained. Thank you.
I'm assuming are you abstaining?
No,
Because
yeah,
you're-
that's right.
Yeah.
So what did you do?
Okay, our next item is, part of our ARB committee. They had one item on here, and it is a applicant that asked for a variance. The ARB committee has recommended the variance be approved, but the board has to make the final decision. It's essentially a color change. You can see the approved color scheme on here.
No, we can't.
Oh, you're.
You can look at mine.
Oops.
Lisa, what was the recommendations of the?
The recommendation of the ARB committee was to approve it. It's very similar. It's,
Well, I think the ARB committee is very competent, and if they recommend that we approve it, I'm inclined to approve it.
sorry, my apologies.
Good. We make a,
I'll second it.
good. So any discussion on that? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Good, Lisa, in regards to ARB, there was one other thing that, we had some recommendations with a little bit of new construction left.
Yes,
But did the ARB accept that? Will they incorporate that? in
they did.
construction?
If we have new construction come in, then
Okay.
that would be something that can be put in with
Good,
the new
and we'd
construction.
like the homeowner and the builder to sign that, document for new home construction.
It's essentially that they will keep the lot and the area around the lots clean. Somebody trying to get in?
We're getting a lot of dirt in the roads with new construction, they're not cleaning it up. We're, have asked them to put storm barriers over the drains so that their, construction materials don't go into our drainage system. Not to block the road and to be respectful of the adjoining homeowners. And they can only, work on Sundays for permission. That's that.
Your next item is your compliance committee hearing results. Document that looks like this, I think your financials got put in front of it. You go right after your financials. There's 6 items that the compliance committee has, found in violation. People have failed to bring corrective action. And their recommendation was that the fine be assessed on these 6.
Good. Along the same auspices, we have, this board has traditionally accepted the findings of the compliance committee and their high level of competency. I recommend that we accept the compliance committee hearing results entirety.
I do know of one, that one's Sealy, it's a neighbor, that house recently sold. So there's a new owner, that changed anything?
It would, if somebody else, if it hasn't already been applied, we can give them another opportunity to bring it into compliance.
Cause I know they're renovating the whole inside, like tearing out the kitchen and whatnot, so I'm sure the yard
So if you,
could be something we do.
if you wanna do it, leaving that one
You
out,
wanna exclude number 6?
we can go ahead and give them a time period to bring that yard into compliance.
Good, based on it having just sold, okay? So I amend my motion to exclude number 6, and we take the recommendation of the compliance committee 1 through 5 in its entirety. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, have they been given the opportunity, have they followed the procedure and given
Yes,
the opportunity?
they've
to
all been
correct?
given the opportunity to correct, they've been given the opportunity to come to the compliance hearing, and they've been given an opportunity to have an extension of time.
All of which.
Yes, most of these are people that didn't respond whatsoever to anything.
Okay.
Yeah, we're always far more interested in compliance than we are finding people, for sure. That's why we just run it as a compliance committee instead of a finding committee. Good, any other discussion? Good, all in favor?
Aye.
The next item for the compliance committee is that we have slowed down on the number of compliance inspections we're doing pending getting someone else in to help the office with getting some of the actual inspections done.
Yes.
Which we're gonna address with staffing.
Yes. Great.
The next item is your financial report. Your receivables are coming down, while there's still quite a few of them, they are starting to come down dramatically. Sending late notices out and, leaving love letters for people seems to be fairly effective, we're getting quite a few people in. The general gist, we have a few line items that are over budget, for the year. Chris and I have started reviewing those, it looks like some of them are just put in the wrong category, so some of them will just be, an easy change. Some items are dramatically over, such as your gate maintenance is dramatically over because of the amount of money that we're spending on the gates right now. Overall, budget-wise, you are under budget for this point in the year, $102,151.
Fantastic. Good, anything else on that, Lisa?
That's it.
Good, in regard to compliance, it does seem, when I spoke to Dave Bauer, that there's a significant amount of compliance complaints are coming from renters, a high disproportionate percentage.
There are.
So we wanna start to focus on making sure that our homeowners provide our rules and regulations to renters, as well as the copy of the rental agreement.
We might wanna consider doing a rental policy at some point, that, you know, this is what has to be done when you rent your property out.
Yeah, we get asked that from First Service, maybe that's something that he just has, and you can, once you determine if you have it or not, you can, present it at a future board meeting. It'd be nice to have Dave Bauer's participation with that as well, okay?
And he'll be back for the next meeting.
Good, thank you. Good, next item on the list is communication, website, newspaper. Mark, this is one of the committees that we needed some help on, and we were gonna recommend, if you're inclined to take over as the board liaison to the communication, social and grounds committees. Two big committees.
Social and ground, what about recreation and building? Is that an option in there?
I've got, recreation.
Maybe taking out ground, oh, you have that?
Yeah, I have recreation.
Okay. I could definitely do the communications website, newspaper area. The other one was social?
Which is only a couple of months a year.
Yeah.
Grounds and grounds is a
I
big
could
committee.
definitely do that.
Okay.
The grounds committee, I hate to tell you this, but I mean, I couldn't find that, I was at one of the meetings over there, no offense to anybody, but I just don't see myself as a ground person per se, I mean,
Is our most active committee?
you know, I can take-
Fully
Second,
represented.
They just-
Five members in.
Yeah, Norman is on there.
It's okay, Mark made it clear that he was interested in the building stuff.
Yeah, I told you,
I
I
totally
told you
understand.
all up front that I wanted to be more in that area.
But we don't have a building committee.
But-
It's,
Recreation and building.
Yeah, it says
that's all rolled into that. Okay, I make
Well,
up, okay,
All right, so give me communication, website, newspaper, and social?
yes, sir.
Sounds good.
Okay, I make a motion that we, make Mark the board liaison to communication committee and social committee. Any discussion? Anybody from you, Mark?
No, fine.
All in favor? Aye.
Get the survey out.
Yeah.
Get the survey out.
And should you be interested, John Dick would be, inclined to give you grounds, he took that one, Mark, he moved, okay?
Okay.
So, and once again,
I
it's
guess they-
good, competent, good, it's not torture. Good.
John Dick thinks it's torture.
Cause he gets a bullet on him, or a bullseye on him when he walks.
Good,
All right,
good.
May I ask you,
It's a good committee.
It's in the.
I'll give you a list.
You did the list.
John,
Mark, I'll get you a list of
And
all
show
the
the names of those
contacts.
committees that you're the new liaison to.
Okay.
Good, good, super. John, was there anything to report from the golf course side?
Well, there was a question that came up from the grounds committee about those trees that have been knocked down on Kirby Smith and then back just before the verandas. Verandas asked him to do that. They paid him to do that.
Okay.
Wait,
And the trees on Kirby Smith were hanging over the sidewalk, so he knocked them down. I think he needs to clean them up. That's-
Yeah. Yes,
that was the issue.
Did the verandas ask to have trees knocked down outside of the verandas?
Yeah, it's common area, really. They specifically went up there and asked me if they could clear it back.
Do you know
But
about
it's
this?
the furthest away from the verandas.
Did you know about that?
didn't know that they asked him to do it. I knew that he was pushing areas back to keep the sidewalks clear based upon some complaints that we received. But I didn't know that the Mirandas had asked him to clear that out.
Did you touch base with the verandas?
Sure.
And ask them, is there anything that's on the side of their area? So John, what do you roll golf course and grounds in together?
Things I want both of them.
Give us a report.
Well, the grounds committee does have a few things to say tonight, I believe.
Okay. You want to defer?
Do you want to do it now, or do you want, we have somewhere on the,
Well, let's go ahead and do that, and we'll fill in,
Agenda items.
we'll fill in if need be.
do you want to? Okay.
We're gonna defer?
Go ahead, I'll just move it out.
However you've been doing it with the other committees, we can do it any way you want. What did you, which is
Go
the
ahead,
first item
move
is
it.
the survey. We were looking to see if we can get an update on where we're at with the survey. Whether or not that's been voted to go forward, but I understand we've collected a bunch more email addresses now.
Lisa, how are we on percentage of email address?
We have, right now, we have almost 1,300 email addresses.
What percentage of homeowners, since we have less than 1,300 homes?
I
What
don't know
percentage-
exactly what percentage of homeowners that is.
Is the grounds committee comfortable with releasing a survey with that amount?
Well, I think without knowing how many individual homes that is, it's kind of hard to say. I think we had to do it in a couple ways, right? We could do hard copies in the office for people who come in. Gotta control it, right? We don't want people coming in filling out 5 of them. So yeah, I mean, I think if we've got that big of an increase, and that's a pretty good increase, I think, in quantity, I think that's enough to push forward. I think the more word gets around that those folks are getting to participate, we might get some more out of that. We might get a bounce out of that.
What's your preferred delivery method of survey? We can do Survey Monkey by email, we can do a mailer at expense, and then we can do a voluntary participation, which we will probably get low results.
I would say virtual to the extent possible. If we could do a survey monkey type of thing, get that out in emails, presuming we can control it, right? Last time we had one, not everybody got one, so people got several.
Yeah.
I don't think I have the technical skills to tell you how to do that properly, but certainly think as much, to the extent possible, we should do virtual.
Well, we got a lot more than 400 homes now.
I think we could hit it a couple different ways. We can, as long as we request that people put the unit number, their home address on there, that would be a way to track that we don't receive multiple from different homes.
Unless they don't do that.
And we can do it, well, if they don't, then, we weight that in.
I think you can make it a required field if they're.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right, so if you made that a required field, if they didn't fill it out.
We just don't count the ones where they don't.
And
Right.
the way SurveyMonkey works, if you get multiple from one like every email address, you can match them up. So so you know if you got more than one, you know which.
But even if people that don't have emails, we could give it to them and, you know, we get our hard copies and, okay, we have an address from this one, we just mark it off on the sheet.
Or you could identify in some way when you hand it to them, is that what you mean? Yeah, absolutely.
Lisa, what's our
we
next
have a couple
mailing out
ways.
to the community?
When is our next mailing
It's
out?
gonna be the budget.
We will have a budget mail out, yes, that'll be the next required one.
So let's make a note to put a survey question, in that. Do we have your appropriate contact information, emergency, regular? Again, I know we've done it before.
Are we including the survey in with that, or?
Yeah, or given that, I would explode the survey right in. I didn't think about that, that's probably the most effective mailing of the year,
And everybody would get it.
first or second, anyway.
Yeah, along with.
But then it'd be on paper.
Yeah.
Or are you saying send out the link, send out a link to the
We could
survey,
put-
you could do that.
We could
Well,
send a hard copy of it out, we could also say if you'd rather go online and fill it
Right.
out, go here to fill it out. But, like, that's how we got a lot more addresses, when we sent out one of the mailings, the
Right.
annual meeting mailings, we sent out asking for people to update their information.
And then, of course, we'll put the parking regulations with that, if that takes place afterwards. Okay? Super. Good. What else says grounds guys?
I don't see it listed here. Do you wanna deal with the easement stuff now, or do you wanna deal with that in old
If
business?
we're on grounds, go ahead and
Okay.
knock everything out, I'll just mark it off the list if it comes down later.
Yeah. Several of us in the grounds committee went and met with Commissioner Thompson and several other representatives of the county a few weeks ago, furthering our research on what we may or may not be allowed to do to address some of the speeding and safety concerns on North Shore Golf Club Boulevard. And the good news is the county is willing to work with us on some ideas that we're pitching around to them. One thing that though did come out of that meeting near the end of it was a offer that's been made to the HOA and a condemnation taking that would take place if we don't accept the offer for a sliver of the property that the HOA owns over here on the parcel across from our entrance on Long Park Road. And the general impression that we all got sitting there in that meeting is that it was a very fair offer and it would create some significant goodwill, I think, if we go ahead and work with the county on that intersection improvement that's gonna be made rather than fight with them about it. And I think that's gonna help us with the efforts that we're gonna then come back to them with here in a while, with the traffic calming measures that we'd like to propose to the county. So I didn't know if any of the people on the board had any questions about all of that, or anything that the county brought up to us over above. Those of you that have been on the board may already know. But we came out of that meeting encouraged that they would work with us, but also, you know, kind of with a message that, hey, that's a good offer, you really ought to accept it, and let's move, because you're not gonna get near as much in a condemnation proceeding that's gonna, you know, cost a lot of time and effort and create bad goodwill, for lack of a better oxymoron. So.
And what were the traffic calming exchanges that the county was willing to make?
The general consensus is that the county, because North Shore is not a dead-end road type of community, that they are not gonna let us do the private gate, but they're amenable to us reworking the roundabout to make it a true functional roundabout that will act, you know, as a traffic calming device, because you'll have to enter it and drive around and not be able to just do a quick swerve at 50 miles an hour. We brought up ideas about possibly adding a couple other islands into the road again, so that people have to navigate an island and they can't just hit that straightaway and punch it. We danced a little bit around the ideas of some elevated crosswalks, you know, for our students, that would also act as additional traffic calming measures. Got mixed reviews there, but I think if we get an engineer, create the transportation planning and the drawings that are needed to go get actual, you know, permits to do the work, I think it's something we can throw on the table with them. And, you know, we may not get everything we asked for, but when we brought all these suggestions up, they were amenable to just about everything that we talked about.
Well, I certainly think we'd be inclined to work out an amicable solution with the county as long as we can extract the fair value for that land. For those of you who don't know, we own the land across the street from the exit of North Shore Golf Club Boulevard. It's of similar size to the plot that the apartments were built on at Moss Park Road in the 417. Bobby Purcern paid, I think, about $3.5 million for that piece of land, which is 1 acre less than the land that we own. So I think the highest offer we've had so far from the county for a portion of our land is $40,000. Now, we know that we don't want to have a Wawa or a 7-Eleven across the street from our community, and we want to keep the aesthetics pleasing for those here and keep our property values up. But somewhere in between, I think the last offer was the county was from $600 or $800, somewhere between $600 and $800, and the $3.5 million that Mr. Purcern paid for a comparable piece of land is the right value as we act on behalf of the best interests of the community. So,
Well, and I think the things we need to consider there is that that parcel is 14.3 acres. And what the county is gonna need for the intersection realignment is 0.29, 0.3.
It's a third of an acre.
It's, a third of an acre. So the HOA, when you look at kind of on a per acre price, that offer for a third of an acre is pretty substantial.
yes, but it's most of the land that adjoins Moss Park Road, which is the most desirable.
Well, it's a third of an acre along that right of way.
Yeah.
But if we have to go through condemnation, the county's not gonna take 14.3 acres. And I don't think we want the county to take 14.3 acres. I think we wanna retain control of the other 14. So I think we really need to look at just that 0.3 that's needed. And like I say, on a per acre basis for undeveloped, unzoned property, I think it's gonna be in our best interest. We don't have zoning that makes that property attractive.
May I just make a point? With respect to eminent domain, the county will pay for our fees in hiring experts and determining what the effective value on that land will be. That's the law in Florida. I haven't seen the picture, and if it's 0.3 acres and it's, and it blocks our access to the rest of the property, it might have a significant effect. May have no effect on the value. But I think we have to know that before we make any agreement. And I will also tell you that when dealing with the county, we're gonna wanna make sure that we have everything in writing in all of our agreements and things in detail, because you tend to hear a lot of good things that are gonna happen to your community, and then they get pushed down in votes and things of that nature. So, while I'm sure the county would rather give us a couple roundabouts than, a significant amount of money for the land, or we could work something out, I don't think it would hurt us to at least have an expert hired and take a look at it whenever they make their.
And once again, the cost of it.
You're literally at the 11th hour, Jim. We don't have too much time left.
Well, then I suggest that we should do something.
Yeah.
The offer was made from Lennar, not from the county. Because Lennar is the developer of that story park or whatever it is over there, and new middle school being built, and this road has to be completed by August of 2017.
That's a really good point.
And we just think that, we thought that it was 20,000, not 40,000, we thought that was a little low.
And John brings up a good point. The original contact came to us not from a government agency, not from Orange County, not from the city of Orlando, but from a home developer wanting to buy our land. So it did not come from an official government entity until very recently. So it was a home developer, Lennar, that made the overtures to us about buying our land, not the county. But back to John's point, and John, I know this is what you do every day, and a lot of what our competent attorneys are knowledgeable about is, number one, we want to extract the best value of this property for our community, for our residents. it's our fiduciary responsibility to extract a reasonable and good amount for us. Number two, there are some things that we want from the county, and maybe there's a quid pro quo available for this, for sure. Yeah, so. And we don't pay for the expert appraisal of this, and I think we get our attorney fees covered as well.
Yes, the statute provides all of that.
So it's not a particularly high degree of financial risk to the community. And lastly, Jennifer Thompson, at the end of her term, she's not running again. And I'm not sure how engaged she'd be by the time this gets done in the future, so. As Jim very astutely said, make sure we get it right.
The problem, Dave, though, also is that that's the new middle school that people from here will be going to. If that road does not get completed, you can't get there. You have to roll up and down and come in that way. So, it does have impact on North Shore residents.
Yeah.
So, we need to get this resolved.
I mean, what's the fastest way to get it resolved? How quickly can we act, because we don't have an offer from the county, right? They've not said anything yet.
Well, the negotiation at this stage would be with Lamar.
Yeah, it's only been Lennar, but if Lennar, doesn't give us an offer that we're happy with, then the county has to start the taking process.
But didn't that already happen? Didn't the county already say, all right, we're gonna start the taking process?
They said that they're gonna start it, but they haven't. And I mean, we have had discussions with them about getting something for the community as a result of that. I mean, that's not a new discussion that we've been having. But they've said a lot of, oh, okay, we'll do something for you, but get a traffic study, do this and that. So the idea is to get something in writing.
Yeah, they
Because
offered-
if it's not in writing, it's probably not gonna
Yeah,
happen.
they offered us a traffic study for 2 years from now, so, good. Yes, sir.
So,
The offer from Lennar is only for the 0.3 acres,
correct,
not for the 15.
No.
correct.
You want to say something?
I mean, let's just fast forward down the road and we're told that, you have to give up this land, it's not available we're taking it. Are we happy with only getting $600 for this piece of land?
Well, we're not gonna just get $600 for a piece of land.
But we would get, from my understanding, we would get what the tax rate is, correct? The taxable value for the third of an acre.
I'll defer
Which-
that to both of you.
Well, we already have an appraisal for over 20,000 for the value of the land, so it's not just the taxable value. I mean, there's an appraisal already for more than $20,000 that
What's
Lennar
appraisal?
provided.
That appraisal says $600.
No, there's another one, maybe you haven't seen it, Sarah, but from before, that was over 20,000.
How much were we coming from?
I don't have it with me, I don't know, but I mean, I could provide, the board has had it from previous.
50,000?
No, I mean, like 24,000, like, it was not a lot more than 20,000.
But we had somebody interested in buying that land to put homes in, if he could get the zoning changed, and he was talking about $500,000 for the entire parcel land. Certainly not the strip along Moss Park Road. And if that had fruited out, we would have architectural requirements over that, on aesthetics. We might consider making that part of North Shore, that we can extract monthly dues from, just like Sparrow Landing is set up. And we would have complete, control over what our residents see as it come and go.
So if the county takes that sliver, you're afraid that we won't have the ability to sell down the rest of it down the road?
It diminishes the viability of having road frontage, and we're still questioning, as Jim said, whether we would still have, how would we access it? Would it still be accessible on Moss Park Road, or would someone have to come all the way into that land from Dowdy, kind of like how Isle of Pines is? You know, candidly, we've not heard much from the county on any of this, it's all been from Lennar. It's only recently, if we're gonna negotiate with anyone, we're gonna negotiate with the county. We don't wanna negotiate with a home builder that has a completely, different vested interest than what we have in this. I mean, we've asked Jennifer to open up dialogue with that. We certainly wanna expect the highest return for the community, for sure.
I
Is it
think
good?
the point is to get something in writing that gets you the things that you want, and yes, not to create bad will. I mean, you're on the ballpark, but you have to get something from them that's actually gonna be enforceable at some point.
Yeah, we just thought it was Lennar making overtures on it. We've had, all of us have had discussions with Jennifer Thompson and Susan McCoskey, and, you know, they've never once brought it up in any of our conversations. It's always been about gating and the roundabout and the traffic and some of the other issues.
Can I say, I
I was at that meeting with Jennifer Thompson too, so I could be wrong on any of this, but it was my understanding that Lennar, that the requirement for Lennar was to try to work with us at such a point where they felt like they're saying, no, we can't do anything, so they have turned it over to the county and it's now going into the courts for, or however the process is, into eminent domain, which won't be able to be stopped. I mean, they said they are gonna take it. Now, you guys may know more because they have to have that road. They've spent years studying the road. It's not ideal, like, it's not what I would want definitely either, in this community, but anyways, that was my understanding.
It would have been nice if somebody from the county or from
The city.
Commissioner Thompson's office or the city of Orlando, which
Being
actually
built on
has it,
Yeah,
that
oh, I
road is being
agree, I
built.
agree.
to come and talk to us about it too. So
I totally agree.
that would have behooved them too.
The piece of road that's got to be built is tied into the middle school that you can already see, the walls are up. That piece of road is going to happen.
Yes.
It's going to happen.
We completely, that's what,
And
that's what
that-
eminent
and that's
domain
part,
is.
and that's part of Orange County Public Schools. So, yeah, the city doesn't have a dog in the hunt yet. They may in the near future, but as of now, they don't.
Well, the city has the Lennar site, so they do have a dog in the hunt.
But that road is a realignment of Lost Park, and so it's a county issue as of now. And the county representatives made a point of saying that it doesn't matter if Story Park is in the city of Orlando, the road is a county road, so our dealings are gonna be with Orange County.
Also today, I heard from Susan Arnold, who's the chair of the Lake Mary Jane Alliance, and she says she has an agreement from the county back when they four-lane Lost Park Road, that the road would not be changed, and she's calling out on that too. So she said that they made an agreement with the Lake Mary Jane Alliance when they four-lane Lost Park Road, that there'd be no other deviations without community support and involvement, similar to what they asked us to get our surrounding communities for the gating of North Shore Festival Boulevard. So she's calling out that as well. But we respect and understand your opinion on this.
I have one more question. So you said we have an appraisal that shows, are you saying that sliver of land is
The
20,000?
sliver, yes.
Well, when I was offering us 20,000, that is what is on the appraisal. So in my opinion, I would just take it if that's the appraised value versus risking a $600.
But Lennar did the appraisal, we need to get an independent appraisal.
I think, fine, yeah, let's do that, but I mean, let's do it like tomorrow. I mean,
No,
let's jump on it and not.
I mean, at the time, that was, it came out about a month ago, and at the time, I guess what they were doing before, like they were filling in a lake, Dick is very familiar with it, and he wanted to kind of look into why they were doing it the way they were, because apparently that was not any of the plans that had been seen. So that was the main issue as far as access and things. I don't really think, it's probably not the value of the land, but why they had changed the plan, why they were filling in that lake. We were going back and forth to try to get, because yeah, I mean, it does have an impact on your community. It's not just a money thing. I mean, whatever it's, you'll get, you don't have to pay for the attorney's fees, but it does have some impact on egress and all of that.
And we did ask Lennar, they couldn't answer any of those questions on why that
Yeah.
retention pond is
So
just
there's, and that was right when you came on the
was
board,
getting
Sarah.
covered.
So we could talk offline about some of that.
Super.
If Lennar gets that, what are they gonna do? What do they want, build homes there?
Road.
Build a road there?
To connect to their homes.
To connect to their homes.
The new middle school needs the access.
But there is a road already to the new middle school, just over
There's
there.
a little road that will connect it through Story. And then this road is part of an overall realignment of Weewahootie to bring, because have you been on the Beeline lately?
Yeah,
In the last month?
yes.
Have you seen the clearing going
Yeah,
on next to the
I saw that.
interchange
Yeah,
in
they're
Dallas?
building a lot of homes up to that.
That interchange is being completely redesigned.
Mhm.
So the clearing you see is where that interchange is being reconfigured. The existing interchange, once the new one is done, is gonna go away.
Okay.
But what's right now Alafaya Trail, part of the Innovation Way, that road and that interchange comes down and then basically hits what's now Weewahootie Road, and it comes over.
Okay.
And that's all designed, and there's a major player in town that's about ready to say, we're just gonna fund it now, as opposed to waiting on the county.
Mhm.
It's coming.
Thank you all. Anything else from your side, Brian?
We talked about some metal signage for the gates. Is that something that's already been proposed by you guys and been voted on, or is that something that is
It's on new business.
new business? Okay, so then the only other thing we had was an update on, the request for proposal for the gate arms cameras.
And we've got all that.
Stuff like that.
And we will get deep into that tonight.
That's okay.
We've still got a lot of stuff left on the agenda.
Perfect. Do we have anything?
Sarah has some points on finance, please.
We went over finance.
I was just gonna say that we're gonna try to convene the first meeting and send out information on the budget and all that. We could probably use some more members since now you won't be on it. And I'm the liaison, so.
And we have a sign up sheet up there if anybody wants to volunteer for anything, that would be great.
And the gates are a big part of the budget, Brian.
Sir?
The gates are a big part of the budget. for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to know from the grounds committee what your kind of wish list, your key items are, so we make sure we allocate the right amounts in the budget.
I think they've articulated that to John very well.
Yeah.
Great.
Good, recreation committee, the key take back away from recreation was the significant amount of trespassing that we're still finding on the ball field and in this building. And I can attest to it, I worked out here 3 Saturdays ago, and there was a dozen kids here in the lobby of the building, in the bathrooms. Not a single one of them lived in North Shore. They come down to use the ball field, they come down to use the playground, they stuff stuff in the toilet, they don't respect our place. They have property opening the side door, and coming back and forth through there. They're using this like it was a public entity. We're still getting trespassers back in the rec center. And we're hearing residents reserve the ball field and get there, and there's some other group of people using the ball field, whether it's a rugby match or a soccer match, but it's not available for our residents that pay to maintain it, their dues. So, we're very aware of this trespassing issue, and it's high on our list of things to address. It's a legacy that you dealt with for many, many years.
Somebody told me that there used to be a guard at the pool during the weekends, I think at least. They had somebody live out there to see what was going on all the time.
Yes. And certainly that's on our personnel list to discuss. Good. From the safety committee, the exact same thing, coming back with trespassing. Throughout our community, we've been having numerous auto theft burglaries in the surrounding area. John, if you want to take a second and cover some of that, including a car stolen last night.
Alright, so I've gotten some emails and some calls about, crime being overwhelmingly high in North Shore. I mean, put your ease, that's not correct. I went back to April of this year, until present, and there's been a total of 4 reports completed in North Shore for crimes or something similar within North Shore. 2 in April, we had an FRR, which is a field contact card done on an individual. That person had found a cell phone at a restaurant. Instead of turning it in, she brought it home with her. And the owner of the cell phone did a track on the iPhone, went right to the house. Didn't want to prosecute, but because the deputy showed up and spoke with this person who had taken the phone, they completed a field contact card on the individual. That was one. Another one was in one of your neighborhoods, you had an individual who went to a party. He lives in another part of the subdivision in the Verandas. He went to a party in another subdivision within North Shore, and there was a dispute. He accused one of beating him up and robbing him. The other one accused him of trying to take money from him. They got in a fist fight, and that's kind of where it went. It's at the state attorney's office waiting to be prosecuted. Those were the 2 in April. There was nothing in June, nothing in May. So there was April, May, nothing in May. June, they were at June 30th, there was a theft of a safe from a residence. It kind of backs up to the golf course, which is close to the railroad tracks, and the neighborhood directly next door to you. There was a burglary there as well. However, this particular one was kind of unique. It was a large safe. It was taken, and they don't seem to know how. About $37,000 worth of jewelry and stuff inside the safe is what was claimed. But they're not sure how the safe was removed from the house or how anybody got in the house to take the safe. So it's kind of an odd situation. And then far as thefts in the area from vehicles, there have been several. Eagle Creek, the apartments, back here in Moss Park subdivisions, and nothing within North Shore. Those that have happened within the last month, there is a suspect. I don't know the information, but there is somebody. I spoke to our crime analysis people today, and the detective, they actually have somebody that they're pretty confident is doing all these vehicle burglaries. But once again, like I tell you, none of them have occurred in North Shore. Same thing with stolen vehicle. Say again?
Are we just lucky? Or do we
Well, I
have
would like to
somebody-
contribute to your off-duty services. So, and truthfully, because of the way I designed it, I have another subdivision I do the same thing for, but we don't have standard hours. When you start standardizing stuff and saying you're gonna be here at these specific times or these specific days, people catch on to that. Criminals watch us just as much as we watch for them, and they watch a pattern. When they see that pattern, then they know when they can or cannot commit a crime. So, that's kind of the way it works. I would like to think that our presence here, sporadically, the way we have been doing it, is what's kind of curtailed a lot of the crimes that are taking place in North Shore. So, that's for the vehicle burglaries, your vehicle theft. You did have one robbery in the area, that was at the bank. That was in April as well, I believe, but that wasn't over in this area. So, majority of your crimes that are taking place, a lot of burglaries, a lot of persons crimes are all up around Curry Ford, and Narcoossee, well, Curry Ford and Goldenrod, Narcoossee and Goldenrod area. You have a lot of crimes in that area, but it's way away from you. Eagle Creek has a lot of crime in there, mostly vehicle burglaries, some residents, and then some other stuff. Now, these are crimes that people have called because, we're not talking about, I want my kid out of the house, or somebody who's threatening to commit suicide, or any of those type of calls that have taken place within North Shore. These are all criminal acts that have taken place, from an unknown person coming into the subdivision. So there has been other calls for service for loud parties within North Shore that we have responded to. Information reports, other crimes that have taken place somewhere else, just somewhere else here, and they call, should have responded here versus to where the crime occurred. This could be as well.
Do we have a neighborhood watch program active? I remember signing up for one on our website, but I never received any response or anything regarding that. Do we
As
have?
far as I know, the only neighborhood in here is Sparrow, right, that met the qualifications for the neighborhood watch. It requires people in the individual neighborhoods that are willing to commit the time and follow through with it, and Sparrow was the only one who did.
Okay.
Can we make that request again?
There's a lot of effort that goes into it. I can have somebody come out and speak to you all about it, but you have to have street captain, you have to have, neighborhood captain. There's a lot of, and that's why it's, in some small neighborhoods, it's successful because there's only, a handful of homes in there. When you get into large neighborhoods where there's a lot of people just, they figure they don't have the time to put into it, crime's not here, so why do it?
But if we could maybe tie it in with something social, with the social committees and the neighborhoods, and start tying some things together, it might.
You can publicize it again and see if we get any participation.
Do you have any idea why Eagle Creek has more crime than anything strikes you?
Because they cut their off duty.
I'll be honest, it's because I know some of the people that work the off-duty over there, and they have cut their off-duty. Another problem is, and you can thank Disney for this, with everything that's going on in the world, obviously, Disney is a main provider here for Orange County for, jobs and stuff. So, they have a lot of off-duty there that they have to fill, and because they wanna make sure everybody's protected and safe, so they don't lose money, they've hired more deputies. What they've done to do that is they've raised the rate. The sheriff's office rate is at $30. It has been for several years. Disney has gone to 40, and they're actually getting ready to raise it to 45 because they want to guarantee that the deputies are showing up there. So jobs like this, and other ones that I have, they have basically dwindled down with people who want to come work them because you can go sit at an entrance, get paid $40 an hour, and the rate be 45. Another change that's coming is the city of Orlando. They pay $39 an hour for their off-duty. However, because of their requirements for their officers to work some of the jobs, they're required to be there, but they pay them in an off-duty status, which is $39 an hour. IRS said, well, it's a city venue, you're paying with city money, and you're requiring them to be there, so it has to be at least at the Creek said, oh, we don't wanna pay it, even though they're gated, it's caused their crime to go up. And then, of course, you gotta expect summer. We did extraordinarily well here in North Shore for the summertime. When I was up talking to our crime analysis people today, they said that, they were looking, and they kinda know because it's the same areas over and over again, and they're, wow, you only had 2 reports the whole summer? Well, we got lucky, so, but, you know, it's cause we're out here moving around.
Just like when Metro West increased their off-duty and pay or cut their off-duty, all the crime, most of the crime went from Metro West into Bay Health, where they were on guard. The other thing I'd like to point out, thank you, Corporal, was, the motors unit worked, North Shore last Wednesday morning in preparation of back to school. Just on North Shore.
Go ahead, someone add to that, go ahead.
Good. Maybe you should go first.
It's about your school, starting off with the school.
Okay, good. So in just a short period of last Wednesday morning, 15 citations were issued for speeding. I think that was in about 100 minutes. I think the highest ticket was 28 miles an hour over the limit. 15 tickets in less than 2 hours.
Were they residents? Were they residents?
It's usually about 60% residents. That time of day, it can fluctuate down to 40%. And I'd also like to thank the corporal because that didn't come out of our off-duty, that came out of county funds. So the sheriff's office has a non-emergency number. If you or your neighbors, and we'll publicize this, think that there's excessive speeding within the gate or outside the gate, I think for every 2 calls to the non-emergency number, they send a detail out to work it.
Now, just to add to that, if it's within the gates, then they're not gonna send somebody to work. What they're gonna do is they're gonna send me an email, and we'll, just like if you do, the board sends me an email, or Lisa, then we address it. And that's by, state law. There's a state law that says because you're a gated community, that only off-duty, deputies that work the off-duty shifts here can respond and take care of traffic complaints other than DUIs or other type of crimes like burglarism. That's the only time deputies can come into a subdivision or a gated subdivision and enforce the laws. Is DUI and, you know, domestic burglaries, that type of crimes.
So you make sure to tell them they're swerving.
So, and I'll be honest, we're at the sheriff's office, depends on how you listen to the news, but we're down over 200 deputies. We're about 230 deputies. I work part-time in the HR department as well. Some of you know me, I work in motors. I'm one of the supervisors, my team that I supervise is out in the Apopka Pine Hills area, so it's kind of away from here. But, like all my guys work county-wide, that's just our area of focus on. Team 2, who's over here, is the one who came over and did the detail, on your street. As far as the school, the starting of the school year, I got a message or an email from Lisa over the weekend, so I came out here on Monday morning, and Monday afternoon. There was approximately 15 people that attempted to drop the children off that were not residents of North Shore, in the front. One of them says, well, I own a home here, you know, so I can do it. I said, well, no, you can't, just because you own a home here if you don't live here. Now, that's incorrect. If you want something changed differently with that, that's fine, just let me know. But if their driver's license doesn't say that they reside here in North Shore, they don't have a sticker or some way to identify them by mail that says they live within North Shore, we're turning them away. We're not allowing them to stop and park in the parking lot and drop children off or pick them up. In the afternoon, it was about 8 or 9 to try it, and that was it. So it'll taper off through the week. Nobody was here today. There'll be somebody here tomorrow. There should be somebody here Thursday and Friday. So, and like every year when we start, you know, the school year, this is kind of how it is. But with the new loop, the way they've done it, is dramatically decreased the traffic. I'm sure a lot of you noticed that.
Yes, and I sent an email out at the Monday morning reminding people of school starting to watch for kids, and also recommending even residents not use the parking lot out here to pick up and drop off, because it is unsafe for the children. The amount of cars and the amount of kids that run through that parking lot in the morning and the afternoon, I've seen it. It's too many times there's close calls out there that a child sees, oh, mom parked over here, and they run from the playground over there before mom gets a chance to get out here. and this other person's coming through or backing out. It is a accident waiting to happen out there before school and after.
And
Yes,
I,
ma'am.
Oh, sorry, with regard to the traffic going out here, I know last year we had some people come out and actually work with the traffic. It was much faster when we did not have somebody do it. I don't know about from that way,
And that's
but
when the school took care of that
Okay.
deputy and the crosswalk.
yeah, to address that, this year, it depends on how the budgets are, but I don't think they've, manned those particular, those crossing areas. There's actually supposed to be 2 crossing guards here. For some reason, they've only sent 1. I know they're down about 30 for the countywide for school crossing guards. They're trying to get those staffed within the next week or 2. So they've been pulling deputies off the road to go to those areas. So that's been kind of lacking.
There's usually only ever one there, 'cause my son goes to the elementary school, but this year it's a brand new one.
Yes, it is.
Last year
She
that
was
lady was
overwhelmed.
great.
Yes.
She was crossing people every which way and traffic was backing up, cause she didn't know like the normal protocol, so that made me nervous. You could see traffic backing up and kids were every which way.
OPD had 4 people in Northland Park today, 4.
Yeah, yeah, Orange County is, I'll be honest, they pay them like $11 an hour, you know, to come out and do it. And they get 1 raise, pay raise, and that's after they've been here for 5 years, so it's minimal.
the first week is always
Crazy.
crazy,
Yeah.
and then it just hit.
She may be
Everybody
changing, because she was
settles in.
pretty overwhelmed. They have somebody from the county, and he was out here in the afternoon, and what they do is they go around and they monitor them to make sure that they're able to do what they're supposed to be doing. But, when I spoke with her in the afternoon, she was very overwhelmed. She thought I was gonna help her, and unfortunately I can't, because that's not what I'm here for. So, I can only watch it from a distance.
Good, thanks, Tom. Hey, those of you who have lived here more than a year and a half, remember, there was 3 hours a day. You could,
Oh my gosh.
you could go up and down, North Shore Golf Club Boulevard. It was completely gridlocked to the school. I thank you, John. I thank you, Jamie. I don't know how many dozens of hours that we spent meeting with the school and the county and the sheriff's office to get them to serpentine that traffic in. But the results are, enjoyed by our thousands of residents to this day.
And the parents.
Yeah, so thank you, Jamie, thank you, John, thank Captain, Reed.
One quick question I had is, I've noticed, because I've almost gotten hit several times, as people are turning left out from that loop, and it's not just school, but you can on off hours, I guess. You can on off hours, there's 30 minutes in the morning and 30 minutes. But any other time of the day, because you can't see as you go out, you can't see with all of our, that middle tree area. And so people come out, and I'm coming, you know, I'm driving, and they're trying to turn left, and then they slam because they don't see me.
Is
So
that for the school?
that's
Yeah, so
when,
I
yeah, but
can't-
it's even like on the weekend when
I mean,
people are all
what's the-
parked doing
Yeah,
stuff.
I can't address that, that's the school, and the
Yeah.
school was talking about this year making no left turn out of the school anymore, it's all being a right turn, where you'll have to go down and do a, U-turn on Moss Park Road. Good, Lisa, do we have the social report or not?
I don't think, is there anybody here? I don't think there's anybody from social. I spoke with one of the social committee members the other day, and she inferred that now that school is back in session, she was gonna have some time, they'd like to maybe start ramping up. So I requested some dates that we could have a meeting.
Great, thank you. Okay, any other, committee reports? We'll move on to, old business. The resident survey, have we covered that?
We pretty well covered that. We're gonna send it out with the budget, and as well try to do an electronic distribution on it.
Good, I think the next item on the list, which is pretty popular to everybody, is the gates. So there's a lot of work that's been done by the grounds committee, there's a lot of work that's been done by John Dick and Lisa, and we've got some recommendations on gate proposals.
So I'm gonna give a summary of this real quick. Most of our actual gates are in good shape. They need a little bit of work, some hinges replaced, some repainting, those type of things, but most of the actual gate structures are in good shape. Our operators are not. Our operators are what needs to be replaced. So we put out the operators, replacement of the operators for bids. We got a few of the bids in. A couple of them got disregarded because they were totally out of the ballpark. We got 3 that were somewhat reasonable, and then we got a 4th one today, which seemed to be our dream one, which we kept trying to get, which was gates, cameras, and barrier arms, all by the same company, all warranted and all maintained by the same company. So, John and I have just briefly discussed that. We have a few more questions to ask them because that proposal came in about 20 minutes before the meeting started tonight. They sent people out here and spent quite a bit of time out here going around and inspecting all of our gates and our operators and what was needed and what wasn't. So they put that together. So the gate operators, John, let's pull those out.
Lisa, when you say operators, you're talking about the stand and the mechanical arm
Yeah.
and
The
the
mechanics
electronics.
of it.
The electronics.
Both pieces.
Control box for each one. And the reason this whole thing has taken so long is because we were waiting to see if we could gate the boulevard. Gating the boulevard would have been the cheapest way for us. Now we're not gonna be able to gate the boulevard. We gotta go back to a 9 entrances, 36 gates. And out of the grounds committee, you know, the must-haves were the new control boxes, we knew that, but we wanna keep the gates, we wanna add a bar to help prevent tailgating. It will not prevent tailgating completely because of the new safety laws and the grid that has to be in the road is extended back so that no one gets slammed by the gate. And so there will be some tailgating, you're not gonna stop it, but we want cameras. So if someone does hit a gate, if someone does come through, if there's an incident, vandalism or anything else, we might have a car license plate. So we wanted cameras, arms, and upgrade the gates.
The operators.
We tried 4 or 5 different vendors. We could not get a vendor to do it all. In fact, up until tonight, I was looking at the comparisons and we had one company doing one thing, one company doing the other, and another company doing the other. We couldn't get a company to do the whole thing until this big committee.
We also wanted to make sure that the existing remotes still worked, that they could integrate in. We have thousands of remotes out. It would cause a lot of disconcert to our neighborhood not to have compatibility between the existing infrastructure and what we go to next.
So essentially, to give you an overview of what we're looking at, the 3 proposals we had in ranged from $112,000 to $138,000 to replace the operators throughout the community. That was the 3 best quotes that we got in. And then manufacturer's warranties ranged from 5 to 8 years on those. So those were good warranties too for the period, you know, for the life of it. That means we would have minimal, still gonna have costs, but we would have minimal costs on maintaining those for the next few years. The barrier arms, ranged from $144,000 to $190,000 to put the barrier arms in. And that would cover the entrance and the exits of both gates. So there's been discussion as to whether we just cover the entrance and not put barrier arms on the exit, but you have to decide which way you wanna go. So this includes doing barrier arms on the entrance and the exits, which would prevent people from just driving in the exit gate, as you've seen numerous times, resulting in a head-on collision. So those are ranging, again, between 139 to 190 on the barrier arms. And then the camera systems. The camera systems ranged, there was quite a bit of debate on this as to how many cameras you needed, and it depends on the cameras and what the cameras actually were capable of doing. John and I spent a lot of time looking at cameras and doing demos. We actually, prior to this other bid, had decided on the most expensive camera to recommend, because that camera did not require internet access, it did not require power, because it was solar powered and it had its own storage that you could remotely download from. So it's also bulletproof and movable, and it only required 2 cameras per entrance, because the camera capability, it was wide angle, it could get both the entrance and the exit from the front and the entrance and the exit from the back. And you have the ability to zoom down enough from that camera to see the tag, if you needed to, as well as who was driving it. So it was, John, you've probably seen, they're the same ones they use in like county and city parks, where you don't have a lot of power. It also, does a infrared, so you don't have to have any light and it still picks up. So that was the one that we were looking at. It's essentially the camera is $7,000 a camera. So that adds up quite quickly, to around $126,000 for the cameras. Now, they did make us an offer, cause I kind of went back to them pretty quickly tonight and talked with them after I got that other proposal. And they said that for every 10 we bought, they would give us one for free if we decided to go with them. So I asked them to put it in writing, they shot it over, so we have that. So we're ranging in the cameras from $125,000 to do the cameras to $135,000 to do the cameras on the 3 proposals that we had in. Understanding that 2 of those proposals, we still have to get internet to and electricity to, as well as that will be an ongoing cost of providing internet and providing electricity to those cameras. The proposal that came in this evening, and again, John and I have a little more due diligence to do on it. Essentially gave us the gate operators, a license plate camera on each gate, 2 overall cameras, 1 entering and 1 exiting. It gave us the DVR for recording it, the barrier arms, and all the barrier arms we're talking about are the actual lighted LED barrier arms, so there will be a light there even in the evening that you will see.
So it will be red when it's down, and when it's fully opened and engaged, it will turn to green, making it less approved.
It includes, let's see, the barrier arms, the cameras, the gate operators. In addition, it includes the proximity reader on our access panels. Our cards have the ability to be read as you come in and out of the gate, as opposed to using a clicker or having to reach out and put a code in. You can actually use these cards. So they included that. The proposal for doing all of that, how many pages? You got it there, John, like what page is it? 228,000?
Almost $229,000.
Yeah, so say $230,000.
Now that compares with taking the best of the 3 that you've given us a piece. The best of the 3 is $381,000.
400, so.
It effectively comes up to $26,000 per community to put cameras, gates, operators, and barrier arms in for all of the communities.
Do they have a good track record?
They do. They're a well-established company that has been in business for many decades. And they are a well-established company. I didn't think they were gonna get the proposal to us. And they came back out yesterday and said, we are very interested in doing it. You know, I said, well, you have until tomorrow night. And they got it.
One of the reasons I like this one is compared to the other is when there's a problem, everyone's gonna be pointing fingers between the 3 companies. And this is one company, got them all.
A couple questions. One, did any of them have the option for the barcode scanner? Where you put a little sticker under?
You can't add the barcode scanner, yes.
Yeah, and then, my other question was were those prices like all inclusive? So like the last one, was that like running the power, like everything, or is that just the equipment and installation, or?
This is everything but the electrical consideration and engineering fees. If we required any engineering, and the electrical, getting the electric to their services.
And did that require the internet?
Yes.
This one does require the internet and it does require electricity. The other thing that I was not pleased with was it only had a 2-year warranty, but it was a 2-year labor and, equipment and labor. So it was 2 full years. So I would go back to them, my hope will be to go back to them and try and negotiate a better, you know, warranty.
And, I'm sorry, also did it, I forgot.
I have no idea the community where they've done that, similar work.
Thank you.
I have a question for you. Is there a maintenance contract, annual maintenance contract on this? You know, you have upgrades of software and all
That
kinds of
is,
things
that
you
is
have to-
something that, they all wanna propose is a maintenance contract for us. So we will get a, PM program. I have a couple of them that have sent me the estimates already for what the PM program would be.
Do they have also a system in place that could be seen and verified how it operates and all that?
Yes.
They have such,
Yep.
have you seen it?
Yes, I have.
You have.
I've gone and seen it in a couple of places, and we could, any of you wanna go see it, I can set that up where they can do it. One of them actually came out here and did a demo.
Good. So Lisa, you and John have spent months on this. Grounds Committee has gotten a lot of, input on this. We have a recommendation finally after a year and a half.
We will probably by next meeting, unless you wanna go, you know, I'm
Here's-
leaning toward this TM systems.
I would say that the grounds committee
And I
hasn't
just
seen any
saw
of this, so
I-
we would like to take a look at it.
That was gonna be a recommendation that I have, is we've got John and I kind of had a recommendation before we got this last proposal in. So I'd like to take that recommendation and this one, and, the grounds committee meets next week.
31st,
Good.
2 weeks.
2
So
weeks.
maybe, well, obviously John is your liaison,
Mhm.
and maybe you guys, if you're so inclined, can visit a community that has it. You know,
The other option is we can go with a dollar amount, and we can make the selection based upon a not to exceed.
I'd like to take whatever you and John recommend, let the grounds committee have a kick at it, and then at the next board meeting, make a resolution to adopt your recommendation.
And I can send you guys the two top ones, and you can kind of look at them.
You know, this has been a year and a half of work.
We need to get it done.
No vendor has exact same services and equipment
No.
and apple to apple items to compare. So what we tried to go with the list of things that we've determined that were needed, a quality vendor, and go ahead and make a decision and upgrade the gates, which will be the biggest expense.
How long was that proposal good? I'm sorry.
Most of them are 90 days.
For my last question, did they give any indication on the last quote when we got today of what those additional fees would be for like the engineering? Do you have any ideas if that's $50,000 or?
No, but I will find that out.
Of course, you all understand, who's been to a board meeting before, that John, during his decades of career, was a procurement person for Trammell Crow and for AT&T Lucent. I have no doubts that John will get that screwdriver out and beat them down for every dollar that we can save and every discount and every freebie that can be included in this.
And I'm pretty good at pinching a penny.
Yes.
I've beaten many of them down already before they've brought this to you.
Forgive me for neglecting you on that, Lisa. I know you've got a lot of time.
Realistically.
So at the next board meeting, we'd like to pull the trigger and pick a vendor.
Because realistically, you can help with that review, and then it's a matter of making a recommendation to finance on how to finance the purchase so that the residents don't get a big one-time.
And we're trying to do this quick because we're going into budget for next year too.
Yeah, and get it built right into this year's budget, and come up with a plan that everybody in the community will buy off on.
Super. And as Andrew always says, cost per house per month, cost per house per year.
What's the monthly increase then operating, because we already paid power and
What, and that's what we
internet.
have to look at, is there shouldn't be a significant amount for
With the
that,
maintenance.
because we need to be
Because
able
the
to,
maintenance
right.
needs
And monitoring, right.
Right.
Now, Lisa, last couple of questions.
Yes.
As Rose said, and John knows, the expense comes out of reserves.
Yes.
We have this in reserves.
The initial
The
infrastructure.
the maintenance, the monitoring would come out of dues.
Correct.
Dues. And we had looked at this whole virtual gate system. We're not gonna spend all of that money at this time.
All of these systems, by the way, can be upgraded to add the virtual guard at a later date.
Your clear
should we
point,
want to.
that was gonna be my question.
Yes.
So if we like the gates and the gates work and we all do a good job on what's gonna be an emotional issue, next year or in 2 years, we can add the virtual gate where you missed that presentation, Andrew, but, if you had a directory of, let's say we decide 6 guests or 8 guests per house.
Just the one where you talk to the guy on
Yeah.
the
Talk to the guy on the phone. The one we looked at was domiciled in Florida. You inserted your driver's license if you were not a scheduled guest. And you talked to them, and if they couldn't reach anyone in your group of numbers, they were denied access. And that's something that had a lot of allure to everyone, and we can look at that down the road. The one that we looked at, the traffic was backing out onto the road because it was too slow. So maybe they
Which
just-
might be a good thing for North Shore. Slow
For the
people down.
speeding?
No. Good, anything else on gates?
That pretty well took care of gates, barrier arms, and cameras.
Good,
Okay,
great job on that.
so the next item is notification signs. We're trying to figure out multiple ways to communicate with the residents. We got a lot of feedback on the little signs that were stuck in the gate that, let you know that there was an election, that type of stuff. Grounds Committee had a wonderful recommendation of what if we had some signs that could be there that could update people all the time? That's great. The corrugated signs were fairly, pricey to make a whole bunch of them. So we came up with a possibility of making a metal sign that would fit in those little brackets on the gates that said North Shore Lake Cart, that was black and gold and matched everything nicely, but they're metal, so all we had to do is have a spot along the bottom that wasn't filled in, and we get magnetic pieces to put on that says board meeting tonight. And these aren't your 48 hours, your 14-day requirements. These are quick, I'm coming in and out, oh, wait a minute, there's something happening today, that's right. You'll still have your notices posted, you'll still have emails, you'll still have that. But this is just, I'm coming in, oh, wait a minute, yeah, there's a ARB meeting tonight, there's this, there's that going on. And we could change those out.
Is that covered with plexiglass or something in front of the magnetic?
It is not, we assume that the magnetic signs will occasionally get stolen. We're getting them printed up so that they cannot be changed around, so that the new signs are not put out as different signs. They actually look very, they almost look, because they did a little mock-up, it almost looks like it's, yeah, it doesn't look like a magnet when it's stuck on it. It kind of looks like, oh, that's the sign. So the kids getting on the bus would probably go over and play with it. We understand that.
Yeah, but
We'll have cameras. There you go, we'll have cameras. But, I did factor in buying a couple of extra of each for those signs. And it'll be a lot faster to be able to just walk out and pull a magnet up and take it down. So essentially, the signs are not bad. The signs are around $600 to get the actual signs that will stay in there. Your magnets, because we need so many of them, are where your cost comes in. The magnets aren't bad. The magnets are about $12 a piece. But we estimated we needed about 200 of them to be able to cover enough for every gate and ARB meeting, grounds committee meeting, compliance committee meeting, budget meeting, board meeting, potluck, whatever it happens to be. We estimated we would need that. So the total comes up to, for those signs, $3,200 to do that. And we can do it in a couple of stages. If we only want to spend, we could get the signs and get the basic ones that we have all the time. Board meeting, compliance, ARB, grounds. And we're looking at essentially, about $1,500 to just do those basic ones. And then we could order some more and add them as we need them. Or we could just bite the bullet and do them all now.
So this came from Grounds Committee?
$1.25 a house.
Yes.
This came from Grounds Committee, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Hey, Lisa, can you see what the cost would be to make them reflective, so they look good at night too? Once daylight savings changes?
I'll
See,
ask,
that's
yeah.
one.
At night, the car lights will be on. I mean, did everyone see the election? I mean, they weren't reflective or anything. They showed up quite well.
But it's only a few $100s more.
Do you have any estimate of how long it would take you to actually put each and every one of those on the gates?
Well, what we thought is, as every week, actually every day, I go through each of them, even if it's just through the little turnaround, just to kind of eyeball the gates. But what we thought is, as we get to talking about the staffing, is that can possibly be this other person, because they're gonna have rounds that they will need to do, and that will be one of the requirements, is to pull those down and put them up. And even I can carry magnetic signs in my car as opposed to me trying to carry the big signs in my car or on the golf cart, and everybody look at me like I'm crazy because stuff's hanging out everywhere, so.
Great. I don't-
So-
John, do you wanna make a motion to,
I'd like to make a motion to do, implement the whole program.
I
For the
second,
$200.
I second that. So any discussion?
And if I can get them done reflective for,
Within $500,
Okay.
sure. I think it'll pop nice. 500-ish, okay?
okay,
Good.
who made the second
I did.
vote?
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Perhaps committee's role.
I love it.
David.
We have some other requests.
Quick, get them out of the way. Okay, new business.
No, we have one more thing under old business.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yep. Again, building on the grounds committee, between the grounds committee, the safety committee, dialogue with the sheriff's personnel, we all acutely know that we have an issue with parking on the streets and access throughout the community for not only emergency vehicles, but now we're having issues of garbage trucks not coming down and picking up and mail being skipped. So we finally have to introduce a parking policy. So I think that we've gotten most of the basics covered. And for those of you who don't know, Village Walk, Eagle Creek, Cedar Park now all have no street parking. So we're going to implement alternate side of the street parking by month. Even months, you can park on the even side of the street. Odd months, you can park on the odd side of the street. I think that's the simplest that we can make it for our residents to understand. No parking on the sidewalk, grass, no parking diagonally across a driveway. No parking vehicles with no tags, which is already in our regulations.
There's also the issue on the islands.
Yeah. No parking in single lane roadways.
You have the little map that we've got, there's certain streets within the community that by state law, because of their width, should already be deemed as no parking.
Right.
We have to paint the curbs or something to make life easy, on the
No.
residents to identify for, the off duties to have to ticket if they have to. There's certain streets in the community that just by the nature of their lane width,
And so
parking
we-
is already illegal.
So
by
therefore,
state
you're
law.
gonna do away with no parking for visitors.
Putting this thing on
Yeah,
wheels.
because visitors
Just
gotta park in.
opposite side of the street, so you can park on one side of the street or the other, but not both, because if lots of cars are there.
Yeah.
You want a point?
Yeah, they were saying about putting more parking everywhere.
Just for a single lane, like around the islands, where people have to drive up on the grass over the curb to get around. But they'll be parking on the outside of the street during the odd months. February, April, June, and then even months, they'll have parking on the opposite side of the street, but there'll never be parking on both sides of the street.
How would
Blocking
that
access.
be enforced? And it seems, I mean, I agree, because if you live on the street where you can barely get around, because it's so many cars, but, it seems like how would people remember, first of all, even odd, just.
Well, I think I have memory taken care of, because I've found new resident parking decals that we can get, that we can print on both sides of. So they would, have your resident ID on the front, and on the back side of it, it would actually say, parking on this side of the street, January, March, et cetera, this side of the street, so you would have right there in front of you, that was, cause I was trying to keep
And
right
frankly,
away.
this builds on a really smart suggestion that just came from Grounds with the magnetic gates. So we'll have, on the odd and even months,
Yeah.
parking on even side of the street. And you as a homeowner, are responsible for your guests and vendors. So if you have guests and vendors coming to your house, you're ultimately responsible once they come within the gates. Yes, ma'am?
Why can't it be half a year and half a year? In other words, January through June, July, December. So I would think, okay, what month this is? So half the year, you park on the right side or facing whatever, and the other half. Why switch back and forth?
If I could make a comment to that,
of it is that, cars that like to sit and not move, it's a requirement for them to move them every month to go to park to the other side for the month. If it's not, then they will sit there for 6 months before then they have to move to the other side.
You have cars that don't.
Yes.
Yes, we do. Isn't
Yes.
that against?
You have a
code?
black Mustang that parks on Myrtle Creek.
It hasn't been moved in 2 years.
No,
Yeah.
but the.
And I finally made contact with the owner, and he actually, if anybody's interested, he's contemplating would like to sell it.
What year is it?
I'm trying to make contact with him because he has not put his current registration sticker on it. The car is registered correctly, he just didn't put the sticker on it.
The
And I actually
sticker- well,
caught him
can
at
we
home
find
doing yard
them?
work, and told him he needed to put the sticker on.
The sticker's on.
If it's half and half a year, can we find those that are in the opposite wrong side?
Yes, we can.
I think that's a way of getting rid of the ones that are there forever.
Well, I think the recommendation came every other month, and I think that had a high subscription.
Yeah, I just like to keep it
yeah.
simple.
You know, those of us who grew up in New York, it was like every other day you had to move your car,
Yeah.
if you lived in the city. I think every other month is the fairest to the homeowners instead of every 6 months. You could have said it better about the semi-abandoned car. I think we're gonna try it. The only,
But if that's the only reason you're doing it, I'm just saying.
I'm sorry, what's the
If that's the
other
only reason you're going back and forth,
No.
1 month and 1 month?
The only-
This has actually been, I haven't been on their committee in quite some time, and this has been deliberated on for many, many
Really?
months, yeah.
We
Oh,
thought it would be
yeah,
easy
all right,
if
so
you
it's-
had an odd address,
problem.
odd number address, and it's an odd month, on the fifth.
Yeah.
I'll
The-
follow
the-
whatever
the
cars
key
are-
reason, the key reason that we're doing this is complete access to the community for, it was originally emergency vehicles, you know, a fella had a heart attack in Tanner Landing, where they have a lot of renters, and they couldn't get the ambulance down in between the cars. We have the same issue, and our road is bigger than Tanner Landing. We know about this, we have to act on it. Now, we're getting complaints from the trash people, they can't get the trash truck down to pick up. The UPS truck, we're hearing dozens of people aren't getting the mail because the mail truck's not coming through. You know, you get a new mail person who's abiding by the rules. So we have to do something with the parking. The only question that I've seen that's come up, and it's been discussed by the safety committee, is whether we just go full bore and have no parking between 2 AM and 6 AM to clean from the street. Now, remember, Village Walk, Eagle Creek, City of Buckeye have no street parking at any time, at all. So we're gonna allow alternate side of the street parking as a test for the rest of this year to see if we get compliance and if that works. We can do no street parking, I'll get to you in a second. We can do no street parking, at all, which I think is gonna be a firestorm in the community. And then the other consideration is whether we have no parking between 2 AM and 6 AM, on the street at all, and that's really the last
Well,
thing.
what happens
we
if
could
you have a
find.
guest sleeping in your house, and it's got a park in the street?
Then the office will do 2-day and 7-day parking passes, which your guests will display in the windshield. But we have homes that have 7, 8, 9 cars with renters, and that's beyond the reasonable limits. I'm sorry, ma'am?
Okay, you're parking on one side of the street. We have mailboxes there. Now the mail can't be delivered because for the month,
They still can't block a mailbox or a fire.
They don't know
hydrant.
that though.
They will the first time they get towed or
So-
ticketed.
I mean, that's gonna
You
create a
can't, you can't
problem.
block the mailbox as it is today, so.
So they do.
And then
And if it's one side of the street parking and your mailbox is there.
So
I'm
my
sorry,
hopes
pardon me,
would be.
Lisa, one second. Would you propose no street parking at all? Because we certainly contemplated that.
Well, I think that's up to you people, but I mean, I don't park on the street anyhow.
Well,
I park in the driveway.
I know when Eagle Creek did the, cause I have friends there, they said when they did the 2 to 6, people stopped parking in the street pretty much, because all of a sudden now, you know, in the morning, you know, so all of a sudden, 2 AM or whatever, that people stopped, cause all of a sudden it's like, well, now I've gotta clean up the car.
Well, you've all heard me say many times, I don't have the patent common sense. I mean, we don't come in here with an agenda outside of trying to allow access. I mean, if the community wants no street parking, certainly we'll take that. I mean, it's really the opinions of the grounds committee, we know what the safety committee thinks. Go ahead, Chuck.
I was gonna say that, like, I mean, I don't park in the street, I don't have a need to park in the street because I'm on the roadway. I just don't think it's fair to residents who do park in the street now, like, to just get rid of it, because some people, you know, like, if they have a 4 or 5 bedroom house with only 2-car garage, and each of their kids are driving, like, it's just not fair to them. Like, they bought in this neighborhood with certain expectations. Now, as far as like, you know, not blocking the street, well, that's a common sense thing that we should implement because there's safety there. But like to remove all street parking, I just don't think that's fair.
And Chuck, you made that recommendation, Chuck, and we have weighed that not to eliminate street parking.
What about limiting the number of cars that you can have on the street? In other words, if you had 4 cars, you could only have up to maybe 2 cars on the street or something
Per
like that
resident.
instead of having.
There's not enough street space for individual houses. I mean, some of these houses are very, particularly in Myrtle Creek, houses are so close together. You could put one car on the street and you're blocking.
And the streets are narrow in Myrtle Creek.
So, I guess the concern is about people parking in front of mailboxes. We're not supposed to do that. Lisa, is there something, can she call you? Or
Well, that
what
was-
what would she call it?
Well, there's a couple of things, yeah. So my idea would be when you come to get your decal, there is a document that tells you, explains, here's the parking policy. You don't park here, you don't park here, you don't do this. This is when you park on this side of the street. You have read and understand this, you sign it, it goes in, here's your parking decal. Now, when your car is not parked where it should be, it's parked in front of a hydrant, it's parked in front of a mailbox, John gets a phone call and you get a ticket.
The law requires asking during normal hours, so if you have a party in the evening and somebody blocks your mailbox, you're not gonna get tickets, because it's not expectation of mail being delivered. So if you're parking in the evenings in front of somebody's mailbox, you don't have to worry about a ticket. If you're parking in front of a fire hydrant, obviously you do. If you're blocking somebody's driveway, obviously you're gonna get a ticket, because you can't do that either, unless it's your own. So if you were to call me and say, this person is blocking my driveway, then you can get a ticket. And I think they also, for their policy that they're putting together, you have to park on one side of the street or the other, so we asked a question about how we address it and enforce it. They have a policy where they give out warnings in the beginning to get everybody acclimated to it, and then it will move to a towing service that'll come in and periodically do it.
Yeah, so that's the next step, John. You're right on there. So in dialogue with Dave Bauer, our fine compliance chairman, we would do 30 days of warnings, not to be punitive, try and get compliance. Once again, we're more interested in compliance and we are finding our neighbors. So we would do a 30-day warning period, and then after that, it would be at the discretion of the officer and the staff, whether we do a warning or if it's highly egregious, car on the sidewalk, car blocking the sidewalk, car on the grass, then we have our right to tow. We're much more interested in compliance and not hooking a bunch of cars. Now, here in this parking lot, we're gonna have to start hooking cars that don't have North Shore stickers, that park here and walk over to the school. But that's a whole different matter. This is already posted.
I say we just boot them and keep the money ourselves instead of the towing company.
Sounds good to me. So here's the question on the floor, is should we have no parking between 2 AM and 6 AM on the street? And we're happy to hear from everybody on it.
I think let's just start with alternate street parking and see how that works.
Good.
Yeah.
So we're back to where we were.
What about limiting, again, I was gonna bring it up again, limiting the number of cars that every household could have on the street? 1 car, every household is allowed to have 1 car on the
So
street.
how do you know what house the car belongs to? Because we thought about that too.
You have to have a sticker that, or something that goes in the windshield and it has the information on it.
I think that realistically, Mark, if we implement the policy for only one side of the street, you limited the available number of parking spaces. And sooner or later, there's gonna be peer pressure amongst your neighbors. If you're a guy that takes 2 or 3 houses worth of parking spots, you know, people are gonna start going, hey dude, you know, we're gonna start policing ourselves, I think. So the very nature of getting it down to one side is gonna be that first step toward getting everybody to buy in to being more neighborly. And then hopefully we don't have to take it further, but if we do, we do.
During the day, probably the biggest violator of parking on both sides and limiting space are the landscapers. We need to get them on board, or they're getting their access into the neighborhood, whatever.
So one of the things that John and I have discussed is a way to control the vendors going in and out. I despise the codes. I think everybody knows the codes. It doesn't matter if I changed it weekly, it would get given out and everybody knows the codes. So everybody has, residents all have ways to get in. Get a clicker, you know, however you can get in. We'll have this little thing implemented so everybody can get in. If you're 16 and older, you should have a card, so you're the only ones driving, right? Your resident, your guests and your vendors are the only ones. Your guests have a way to get in. They push the button, they call you, everybody has a cell phone now, you push 9, you can let them in. Worst case scenario, you tell us, they push the button for the office and we let them in. So you have a backup. Your vendors are the biggest issues. We talked about having the same kind of thing. Here's our vendor policies. You can't mow the grass before 7 in the morning. You can't, you know, you need to not be parking on the grass. You know, there's certain requirements the vendors need to do, and I'm picking on the landscape.
You have to park in the right direction.
Yeah,
The flow of traffic.
The flow of traffic. Well, they won't be able to park back there. It won't matter because they won't be able to park back there then. But in order to do it, you're having a vendor come in. We can issue a vendor one of these cards that has access to the community that they're gonna go in. We know exactly who they are. It says ABC Landscaping, and if we have too many problems, we can easily deactivate this card. But you can also, our security out there can say, hey, you know, I see you're walking around behind this house. You know, who are you? What are you doing? Oh, I'm ABC Landscaping. I'm supposed to be here.
You can time limit that too.
How are you,
Yes.
how are you gonna use the card? I didn't hear reason.
The vendors, we would
No,
give the
us.
vendors.
All right, I have a card.
Right.
I'm come
Your
up.
card that you have right now
Yes.
will open your gate.
Become your gate clicker.
If we set up the system that we have here.
I show it, or I have to put it in something?
You just rub it up against.
Just like when you come into the
Just
door.
like here.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like your clicker will still work though.
Yes.
Oh,
Click will
click,
still work,
because
yes.
I would have to roll down the window,
But if you have a
or it
remote,
rain.
It's okay.
Well, you can
But
still
it-
use your.
You won't
but
melt.
you can buy a clicker if you want to.
You have to do
Buy
that
a
if you're
clicker
fucking
if
the
you want
gate,
to.
anyway.
Okay.
You know,
So-
I'm just saying, that, oh, you know, it's,
Yeah, so,
I can't reach,
You'll still be fine.
Your
You'll
clicker
still
will
work.
work.
okay.
So go ahead.
I just wanted to know.
One of the I mean, we didn't have tons of discussion, but one of the things I had mentioned when we said, okay, we're gonna ask them to have less parking, was we could, on the weekends, for 1 or 2 weekends, have dumpsters where we could encourage them to clean out their garage, and we would provide the dumpsters for them to clean out their
Why don't they do
stuff.
that when we have our garage sale this year? Our fall garage sale, we can do it at that time. We can encourage people to clean out the garage, have a garage sale, here's a dumpster, get rid of it.
it's a good idea.
Very clean.
As a resident with a pretty full garage, I hear a lot of people say, oh, you should be parking your cars in the garage, and usually those people are like from up north where there's basements. In Florida, we don't have basements, so you don't have a lot of extra storage. A lot of people do use their garages for storage, and garages aren't necessarily intended to be for cars. I mean, they're, in Florida, they're storage of stuff or vehicles. So like, we should be encouraging that, but it shouldn't be like a requirement that, oh, you need to park your car in the garage. Cause like, it's just not realistic in Florida where we don't have basements.
And
Or
then
I
when we
disagree
didn't
with
say
you.
to take no
When I
parking,
came from
that's
up
fine.
north, where I had a basement, I had 3-car garage, I had 3 cars, a golf cart, and a workbench in my garage. My cars do not stay out at night. It can be done.
And I'm not saying it can't be done, right, but it's a matter of just being a friendly community and not like
If
being
you
overly.
could, if you could get 1 car in the garage, more than you have now, it would.
Right, I'm saying we should encourage it.
Yes.
Good, so
But not require it.
Good, so in summation of new parking policy, will be alternate side of the street parking by month. No, poor parking, which we'll define along with the compliance committee. We're gonna allow parking between 2 and 6 at night for now, assuming that this test works. We're gonna do 30 days of warning, and then after that, it'll be at the discretion of our off-duty and staff and committee members, who's ever inclined to ticket or tow.
And there'll be some other items in there, like for instance, in your neighborhood on Park Ranch, where that island is, there's only 1 way in and 1 way out. It's gonna
Yeah,
make.
there'll be no parking there.
No parking in
And
single lane,
parking.
no parking in single lane areas, no parking in the cul-de-sacs where you would block the flow of traffic. We've got some cul-de-sacs, but that's an issue. Eagle Creek has a pretty good fining schedule for gate damage. I'll get you a copy of that, and then we'll develop the issues with parking. What's the term? Parking. How to handle violations.
years in this community about it, so it's nice that something's actually moving forward.
It's not an easy policy.
No, it's not, you're gonna get some data.
Yes, ma'am.
I know you wanna start this right away to implement, our only concern from the grounds was that.
We're not gonna start it right away, we're gonna give it at least 45 days as we develop a policy and a notice to the community.
Okay, cause we were hoping that it would not go into effect until after the roads were resealed, because we didn't want to disrupt the neighbors with only being able to park on one side and then on the part of the street, when you reseal, the parking becomes very difficult.
Which would be this fall, the reseal.
Yeah, we don't have we know that we have to reseal the roads, we don't have a date for that yet. But we wanna make sure we communicate this to the community.
So,
Yes.
what I understand, we're gonna work on finalizing this policy, and it sounds like it'll come to another meeting to vote on the final policy, and then we'll have an implementation period.
I don't know if we have to vote on the final policy.
Right.
But we'll put it in writing. I'd like to, at the next meeting, have
We'll
some
put that
vendors
as-
and get a date for the resealing, because that's a good point too. And there's no parking on the street during resealing,
Correct.
so
And then if you tell them, yeah, there's no parking on that one spot, and then you tell them you only can park on half of the street,
we've confused
you're
half
gonna
the
really
community
gonna
already.
confuse them.
Another good point, thank you. Yeah. But we have to wait to seal the roads till it stops raining.
January.
And we're not gonna use the gypsy we used last time, so we're not using that vendor. There was a resolution from a previous board meeting not to use the previous vendor.
Okay,
I don't know who that is.
I don't either, but I
You know
can.
who the vendor was? Okay. John, do you remember? They were like gypsies, okay? Okay, any other old business? New business, pond maintenance.
Pond
Lisa.
maintenance, I'm going to, as opposed to the proposals, because I sent out RFPs to 7 different companies for new pond maintenance, because we're not real satisfied with the company that we have. We did talk to them, and their response was to come back and wanna raise our contract, in order to maintain them better. They wanted to raise our contract, so I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna bid them out, cause we wanna see something better, more frequent, we wanna keep down some of the algae and the weeds that are not being kept down and clean up around the ponds. As of today, I'd only got 2 proposals back on the 7 after numerous times of contacting them. So what I would like to do, one of the proposals is literally half of what the new proposal from the company we have existing is, with double the amount of visits, twice a month instead of once a month. So what I'd like to do is, if the board is good with it, as long as we stay within the budget, let me continue to try and push some of these vendors and get them in and select a new, company, as long as it doesn't exceed our budgeted amount. So we can get moving and get somebody in here to do it.
Makes sense to me.
Yeah, I just didn't wanna postpone it to the next meeting, I wanna try and really get somebody on it.
We have to do a motion.
If you guys are okay with me just keeping it as
Yes,
long as
what's
it's
the
within the
budget?
budget?
Good, sure, great.
Can
And
we
then-
discuss a little?
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, we moved from Heron Point, we had a house there, sold it, and moved to Myrtle Creek. Pond 8, we look at in our backyard. It is a cesspool. We
Disgusting.
moved in, we bought it in October, moved in
December.
Is that
December.
a golf course or community?
No, it's a pond.
But is it on the golf course or is it?
No.
Is it on?
It's
Across
not,
the street.
The street is there.
it's not a golf course pond.
Okay.
And I came when the other management company was
So
way back
what do you mean by
then.
cesspool? Does it have sewage in it? Does it have trash in it?
You want pictures?
No, just articulate it to me.
Okay.
What do you mean by cesspool?
What was happening, what I noticed when I moved in December is all the gardeners were mowing the lawn, and instead of going one way, so that the
They were
leaves
discharging
or the
into the
grass would
pond.
fall, on this side, on the ground, it was falling on the water. What happened, and I've taken pictures from the moment I bought the house to now. What happened was the grass that was put there has been growing from the water. I have green grass in the water.
And then-
Most of the time, when I sit back there, the whole section, I mean, it looks almost like a third, and you've seen it,
Mhm.
like a third of my view is trash, it's grass, it's whatever falls on there.
I get it.
And there's muck, I mean,
So
it's beyond muck.
So I don't know which pond you're talking about. So along the adjoining perimeter of that pond,
Uh-huh.
is it homeowner mowers putting the grass in, or is it, or is it an association maintained pond?
Association.
In its entirety?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
because you have the lawn mowers mowing from your property, on your
The
property.
lawn, our
Ours,
association,
ours.
HOA.
Yeah, it was
That's
out.
It's-
HOA mowers that are mowing the slope of the pond.
Right, you
It's
have two
easy-
different mowers that
easy
mow
to-
our backyard.
Easy to handle, okay.
It is?
It's already been addressed.
Yeah, okay, so John is the golf course liaison, and Lisa works with our mowing
I
vendor.
really appreciate
And we'll-
it. And Lisa has been great,
Sure.
I have to say, she's been great.
So,
Do you know which one?
are the new contracts for like late maintenance, are they gonna pick up, are they just spraying, or are they gonna pick up trash? Cause like,
What-
we need somebody to pick up trash.
What I put in the RFP was that the areas would be policed on every visit, which means they need to scoop out what they can reach with their nets and police the edges, on every visit.
Is there a reason some ponds are this bad and others are just pristine?
I don't think we need any
Maybe
pristine.
residents?
Pardon?
I don't think we need any pristine.
Well, I've seen some, if you
Like
saw
that.
mine,
Some of it,
you
some,
would call it pristine.
some of it's the flow of water, all the ponds are connected. You know, John knows this really well, all the ponds are connected and they eventually dump into Lake Hart, should there be an overflow, issue. They're all connected, but this time of year, the ponds don't get a lot of activity, and they start to get a lot of algae and a lot of growth on it, and part of it is the use of fertilizer and pesticides and things like that, both the homeowners and the golf course.
But since you don't want to look at the pictures, I'm telling you,
I see
I've
what-
walked through
Right.
most of the neighborhoods, and I know Lisa knows this.
There's 4 ponds that belong to the association right now that are a real issue. There's 4 of the 15 that are ours that.
All the more
have-
reason to look at a
have
new
major
vendor,
concerns,
right?
And that's one of the reasons that we're doing it. And I know particularly one of the things in her area is it happens to be that the way the pond is shaped about where her house is the wind tends to blow stuff down by her and it accumulates.
Well, we
Yeah, and
Right
everything's
in there.
floating.
we've used this vendor for a long time.
Different directions.
We've used this vendor for a long time, maybe they've become complacent.
Right.
Lisa's a fireball, she'll, address it, and we'll either get a new vendor or we'll fix it.
I'm sure, I just wanted to let you know.
The ponds serve a lot of purposes and making sure that they flow is important.
Thank you.
We're lucky another year, no hurricane, so, good. Okay, so you're already on that.
Yep. Next is you do the cardio equipment.
Yeah, I didn't put cardio equipment on here, I was hoping, in my highly optimistic, shallow mind, that we would have gotten the gates done, and we'd be working on this clubhouse expansion. The board president from Village Walk contacted me, and they're doing a multi-million-dollar expansion and renovation of their fitness center. And he had offered to sell us his fitness equipment for fire sale pricing, including all of his cardio for $3,000-4,000, all of his cardio. It's not new, but it's in fantastic shape, it's high quality, it's light fitness. But at this point, we don't have any place to put it because we haven't gotten to whether we're gonna expand this building or not. So I think it's kind of a moot point.
So we'll
But
just table that for now.
It would have saved us 80-90 cents on the dollar if we could have bought that. Some of it was still under warranty. And they're buying all new stuff.